Hey everybody, I am here with Dr. Stephen Hall. How you doing this morning, Stephen?
Good. Can you hear me?
I got you good. I got you loud and clear. As long as you can hear me, we're good to go.
Hang on. Let me get your face up here. I've lost your face. Just a minute.
You want to
There
have
we go.
that? You
You
want to
got
see
me now?
thing in the morning for sure.
Can you hear me?
I can. You don't want to ask if I can see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, I got you. I can see you too. This is kind
All
of
right, cool.
All right. So, Stephen, we're going to talk a lot about a lot of stuff today, I assume. But can you tell me, first off, tell me about your jiu-jitsu history a little bit.
Well, my combatives training goes way back to the Army many, many years ago, and I started Jiu-Jitsu about 10 years ago. Trained under James Klingerman for my blue belt, transferred over to Team Matos under Andre Galval, got my purple belt, and then got my brown and black from you. It's been about 10 years, give or take.
That's cool. And can you tell us a little bit about your science background?
Yeah, I got my bachelor's degree in chemistry from a Southern Baptist University in Phoenix, Grand Canyon University. I got my Ph.D. in molecular and cellular biology from Purdue. And then I did a postdoctoral fellowship at Scripps Research Institute in California, which is where I developed the vaccine technology that I went on to start a couple of biotech companies with.
Wow.
That's about 25 years ago.
That's still way more than I know about it. So you would say, I mean, people, it's biology, but you definitely know something about viruses then.
Yes.
Perfect. So what can you tell us about, obviously I want to ask you about COVID-19. So what can you tell us about COVID-19 and how it differs from the common flu?
Well, it's one of the coronaviruses. There are about 4 known coronaviruses, and they're very similar. The SARS outbreak, the MERS outbreak, some years ago were also coronaviruses. They're respiratory viruses. They're RNA-based viruses. So what they do is they typically have to have a way to get into the cell, and so there's a certain protein or receptor on the surface of cells that allows it to get into cells. And that receptor is primarily located in ciliated epithelial cells, which is normally found in our lungs and airways. So that's why the coronavirus attacks the respiratory system, because that's where it finds a way to get into the body. So typically the coronaviruses cause a very mild kind of viral infection, similar to flu or cold. It's very hard to distinguish between them because the symptoms are almost identical. And in 98% of the people with all known coronaviruses, you usually have a very mild case and you get better. There are cases where it causes more of a problem, and that typically is in elderly people, people that have a lot of pre-existing health conditions. And surprisingly, COVID-19 does not affect kids that seriously. And if my data is correct, if I remember, there hasn't been one death in the world in a kid under the age 10 from COVID-19.
Wow.
There have been a couple up under age 14, but it's very rare because kids are always exposed to this kind of respiratory crap, in everyday life. And so they actually have a fairly good immune system. So COVID-19 is another coronavirus. It creates mild respiratory problems, and in some cases, in people that are immunocompromised or elderly, it can cause pneumonia and other problems.
Okay, so we see countries like, I guess we have more cases now than like Italy and China, but Italy that has like a little bit older population and kind of didn't take some of the precautions. Do you think, for everybody that the way we are self-quarantining and stuff like that should help take care of this?
Yes. I mean, Italy, like you said, is predominantly, I think 60 or 70% of the population is over 40 or 50. And if you look at the lifestyle of Italians, they're very close. The city's very congregated, family get-togethers. They have 50 people together. I mean, their lifestyle is different than ours.
Yeah, for sure.
It's pretty easy to transmit that. In New York City, I think well over half the cases in New York are in New York. But look at New York. I mean, you're crammed into a subway. you've got a whole melting pot of people coming, international people coming in and out all the time. And that's one of the reasons what's causing this. So yeah, I've always said that the three ways to protect yourself against any hazard is time, distance, and shielding. So if over time something will dissipate, and if you can distance yourself from it a bit, from the hazard, wherever it is, and then shielding, put a face mask on, or it depends on the kind of threat. But yet this term they use, social distancing, it's really common sense. I mean, you don't want to be around somebody that's hacking and coughing and that kind of stuff. So the social distancing will help, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. So as far as, I think as far as like martial arts goes, okay, we do jiu-jitsu. It's a close quarters thing. What is some guidelines you'd have for jiu-jitsu? Because a lot of jiu-jitsu schools are closed right now. Everybody's kind of always messaging me like, when we're going to open, And I'm sure all the instructors across the country and all the practitioners across the world want to hear from you about this topic for sure. So what is some things that they need to know and not do and not do's and do nots as far as jiu-jitsu training goes?
Well, personally, I feel like most of the jiu-jitsu academies already tell their members, if you're sick, don't get on the mats. If you got a cold or a fever, don't get on the mats. Again, exercise normal, common sense. Yeah, you're going to sweat. You're going to trade bodily fluids. You're going to be in proximity to a person breathing. They're sweating in you. And but overall, I don't think we need to practice anything different to actually prevent the infection. However, I think the public perception of us is important. And I think that, parents a lot of people don't know about the virus and they don't know how it's spread. And so they're worried. So I think if we have kids classes right now, I think if the wife sees her husband going to training, they worry about their family getting sick. And so I think out of more almost of a public's perception, I think we probably need to distance or limit that mat time right now until things calm down. However, I don't think if a bunch of guys get together and train, I don't see that the risk is higher at this point. But again, I think we have to look at public perception and go along with that. There's a fine line between precaution and panic. I mean, we always want to take precautions, but you cross this line where too many precautions are taken and the public starts to panic. And that's something we don't want to do.
Yeah, if I got somebody coughing on my mat and, I don't really trust them anyway. And they're like, oh, it's just allergies. I'm like, well, go take a Benadryl and come back. You know what I mean? Go take a Benadryl and I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works out, or, whatever the non-drowsy one is. I personally like all my training partners to take Benadryl anyway, so they're a little bit groggy when I roll with them. So basically the perception is careless, you would say, if you're still having classes going on right now.
I would say, I mean, if you could have probably small classes with known members that are not sick, and that would be okay. I read where Team USA Boxing just came out with an email. I was a certified Team USA Boxing coach, and apparently their insurance policy does not cover a person that would be infected with coronavirus if they're training. So you start to get into these other issues with our liability insurance that gyms carry.
Yeah.
And this is kind of uncharted territory. So a lot of the insurance carriers, you have to be cognizant of that if you get somebody on your mats that has coronavirus, COVID-19, and transmits that to someone, you could be liable as a gym owner, because Team USA Boxing just kind of found this out accidentally, that their insurance carrier said, look, you guys can't have boxing right now because if somebody gets sick, we're not going to cover you guys if you get sued. So I think it's okay. I think you have to just be cautious and certainly not let any new people sign up. I like the way you've been doing it, Klingerman. You're just doing these distance videos for now until they talk about the curve flattening, until things kind of calm down over the next few weeks.
Right. And, if everybody kind of I don't know how long this is going to last. Now, is this going to be something that's just going to become a normal part of life here? Because now it's here, right? It's here. It's going to be like a common thing now. I think, but I don't know. You're an expert on this, so.
Well, I mean, I have several opinions, but one of them is that I believe this COVID-19 coronavirus has been here a while. We don't know because we've never had a test for it. Right now, I think there's maybe 10 million tests available for 325 million people in the country. So we may have had this, people may have had this all along and thought it was a cold or flu, right? The symptoms are indistinguishable. And if it's a mild case, you just get better. So it may in fact be that this has always been here for the last 10 or 20 years, and we just now are getting a test for it. The test that they run just looks for the presence of RNA in the body. That RNA can hang around a long time in your body, even after the infection's gone. So it wouldn't surprise me if we had 100 million tests we could test people, that a lot of those people test positive for COVID-19. We don't know because we've never tested anybody, right? So I think it'll calm down eventually. I think it will eventually be like another respiratory virus. Kids get respiratory syncytial virus all the time. RSV affects a lot of kids every year. Some die, some get better. There are a lot of respiratory viruses that one of the things I think it points to in our society is that we're in crappy shape. A lot of people have pre-existing health conditions. They have diabetes, hypertension,
smoke, eat too much.
Those are all, for example, in people with diabetes, we know that the receptor for this COVID-19 is increased in people with diabetes and high blood pressure.
And that's both types of diabetes?
Yes, type 1 and 2.
Oh my gosh.
So when you're a type 1 or type 2 diabetic, the receptor for coronavirus is upregulated in your body in certain areas of your body.
Yeah.
And so that's why you're more at risk as a diabetic or somebody with high blood pressure or a smoker too. Obviously, all kinds of problems. The thing is, in the body, our one organ system is not independent of everything else. They all are interconnected. So when one system starts to fail, break down, it starts to cause problems in other ones. So as a society and as a country, I think we need to look at our health system, and we need to police our own health better and get in better shape. So that's one reason why you read about these 40 and 50-year-olds that die from COVID-19. Almost every case you read about, they had some underlying medical condition, either some congenital defect or just some lifestyle problem that they created.
I got it. So especially, I was talking about in one of my little short videos, I don't know if I posted it in the group or whatever, that being in physical shape, at least a minimum level of physical shape, is a moral and ethical necessity. You know what I mean? Not just in case if there's an emergency, but even now, what you're saying is kind of just for the stop of maybe not the stop, but at least the debilitating effects of COVID.
Yes.
Or any other kind of virus.
Yeah. I mean, you never know in your life when you're going to be subjected to some pathogen or something that could make you sick. And so it stands to reason, the healthier you are, the better chance you get. Now, there are cases where somebody may have a congenital disorder that makes them more susceptible. You read occasionally about really healthy people that get sick from very mild illnesses, but they get worse and they die. But that's a very small percentage. In general, if you stay healthy, I think you've got a better chance of beating these kind of things. And also, I think as academy owners and as jiu-jitsu practitioners, as athletes, I think we need to kind of set the bar a little higher. We need to encourage our people to be in shape, healthy, and as a country, we need to do that too, but it's very difficult to do now.
Right.
Because people's lifestyle just is not conducive to good health.
Yeah. And it's definitely a combination of I mean, sometimes people, I mean, I know people that eat healthy, but they just simply don't exercise. You know, they just don't have time. They work too much. I know a couple, I'm not talking about, but I'm just saying they just, you know, they just like prioritize work over their own health
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. And a lot of these guys, I mean, my future son-in-law works at a factory at Subaru, and these guys work long hours on assembly lines, and they're very tired. They have long hours. They work hard, and they go to the cafeteria and they have Papa John's or they have Subway, and they just scan their employee card and they can just buy this crap and eat it. So they work 10, 12-hour shifts, second, third shifts. They eat like crap. They don't sleep well. They don't have time to train. They don't eat well. They get no real cardio or exercise. And, you know, that's why we're seeing people 20s and 30s now with health problems, because just our lifestyle.
Yeah. So like people that are doing just the home training, either whether it's solo or kettlebells or whatever modality they use, that's definitely a good use of their time then.
Yes.
Okay. What about people that have, I know some people that have home mats and they have a training partner, like just one training partner. Do you think that's safe?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, again, you know, if your training partner is not feeling well, then call it a day and wait till a few days till they're feeling better. You know, if you have kids, you know, all my grandkids and kids are living with me right now because of they're remodeling their house. But kids are all in a family. There's always somebody that's got a cold or a sore throat or a runny nose. If you got kids, if you got a bigger family, there's always somebody that kids bring everything home. So you use the same caution that you use at home with one training partner as you would use on the mat. So if the training partner at home is not feeling well and showing signs of a cold or flu, then don't train. Clean the mats, wash your hands. You know, just washing your hands and covering your mouth when you cough, these common sense things that we always tell our kids to do, right? But we often don't do it ourselves. So if you're training with one training partner at home, use the same precautions you would use at the gym.
Yeah. I do this thing. I have like hand sanitizer all over my school. Not me just like, you know, hitting it, but like just bottles of it. And I've had some weird looks. Before this even started, like I would meet someone, I would shake their hand, and then I would immediately put the hand sanitizer on, and they would just give me like a nasty look, like, "What, you know, you think I'm dirty?" I'm just like, "Yes, I do. I totally think you're filthy."
Yeah.
So okay, so all right. So as far as just, you know, everybody can train at home for a while, this kind of thing kind of, you know, becomes normal. Do your online training, do your exercises, make sure you're exercising and all that stuff. Good safety habits, and just kind of wait for this to kind of die down then.
Yeah. And I understand. I mean, a lot of well, Jiu-Jitsu academies are pretty well self-policing. I mean, one of the big things we've always had issues with is ringworm, obviously. And if a guy gets ringworm, we should kick his butt off the mats. And if they're sick, just kick them off the mats. I know that a lot of academy owners, this is their sole income. And it's really a problem for them at this point to kind of continue this distance learning paradigm for now, because, you know, then the members hopefully will understand and continue to pay their membership dues.
Yeah.
Or if you waive the membership fees for a month or two, you need to try to get back into collecting fees as soon as you can, because I know several academy owners, I mean, you included, or this is kind of your sole income. And a lot of academy owners have reached out to me and said, you know, this is, before everybody shut it down, they were trying to decide what to do. And they would ask me, what do you think I should do? Because this is all my sole income. And, you know, we initially told people to kind of reduce the number of people on the mats, don't let new members come in.
They reduced themselves, to be honest with you. I mean, probably the day before we shut down, I mean, we had hardly no one come in.
Yeah.
And I would say to, you know, I'm not here to give them business coaching or whatever, but I would say that if you are an academy owner and one,
you need to always look on the positive side. There's something you could be doing. If you're like, well, we're just going to take our time and do this or do that, and I'll see you guys in 2 months, you're not going to have any members.
No, you're not.
You need to give them something. One, even if it's just, we're doing a lot. I'll be honest with you. Christina and I have been working our butts off more than usual. So the thing is that, if they're sitting around or just doing their own training and they end up losing their academy, I'm sorry, and if I lose my academy, then I deserve it, because I did nothing. If I work hard and give my members something and, give them connection, then they will stay connected to me. Now you're going to have a certain percentage where they say it's 10%. 10% is going to leave anyway, right?
Yeah.
And a majority of your people are waiting to see. But if you're doing nothing and they're like waiting to see, and they're saying, well, they're doing nothing, they clearly don't care about us. But they need you the most right now, especially to reach out. And people, it's not maybe people are scared, but people are bored. So if you're just reaching out and just giving, people some sort of connection or some sort of thing and staying in front of them, they appreciate it, and our members have really appreciated it, I would say. So if, academy owners aren't working to do that, then that's on them. With all the information that's available to them now, with all the martial arts business coaching and all this stuff, then they shame on them, really, in my opinion.
I agree with you, and I think your members will appreciate you actually closing for now and doing a distance learning mode, because it shows, I think, that you value not just their membership and their payments, but also their personal well-being and health. Yeah. But the fact that you connect with them, keep in contact with them, and offer them some alternative form of training and resources, I think is huge for them. And I think they would value that more than if you tried to stay open and through this ordeal.
Right. Yeah. And we're even doing stuff like I normally don't do, like we're doing punches and kicks, which, I've done like boxing and Muay Thai and all that stuff. So we're doing some punching and kicking and, conditioning training, which has really helped me because, I've been kind of like, I've had neck problems and not been able to roll, but, I should have been doing my strength and conditioning, but now I've been doing it. Now I'm doing it every day. So now I kind of feel like, all right, I'm kind of back in shape. So just offering them something, and something more than just something free. If you're just, I'm not going to give too much coaching here because it's going to be public, but there's resources out there that can guide you through this. And, if you're an academy owner and you're not taking advantage of that, then you should be, because if you're sitting on your butt doing nothing, then you won't have a school, or you'll lose so much of your members because you're not giving them value. Okay, you gotta stay positive. You gotta stay positive during this time and give them positivity. So, that's a big thing, stay active. So that's that. So, but all right. So let's talk a little bit of jiu-jitsu, man, all this COVID stuff. So, tell us a little bit about, I wanted to ask you, get you on this, because we have can you tell me your age?
Do I have to?
No.
I'm 21.
21 with a few years of experience, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to.
I've been around the sun a few times.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I recently gave you your black belt, and I know you started you've done some training and stuff like that, and you're physically really strong. You know what I mean? Yeah. How has jiu-jitsu helped you? You're a professional also. So how has jiu-jitsu helped you kind of in your daily life?
Well, jiu-jitsu, people kind of get the image or opinion or viewpoint that jiu-jitsu teaches you how to be a better fighter. I believe it teaches you how to be a better person. And for me, it's provided me with a psychological and emotional support and development that I wouldn't have had without it. And what it does is, when you're training hard in jiu-jitsu, you're resisting an opponent with everything you have, but you're having to use your mind and your body to overcome this obstacle. And so, for example, most trained fighters, people get this opinion or viewpoint that trained fighters are quicker to get into a fight, and that actually isn't true. I mean, it just teaches me to be able to deal with life's obstacles in a better way. I don't get as upset about things. I'm calmer. I approach things from a rational standpoint. I always have a plan A and a plan B in my head, and I can adapt on the fly. A lot of people in life don't have situational awareness or body awareness, and jiu-jitsu teaches you to have both of those things. So you can react to a situation, whether it's a physical situation or a psychological situation, much better when you're trained as a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And that applies to not just jiu-jitsu, but everything in life. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. That's really good. How has, you said psychological, and of course, I like to work with veterans. We work with veterans some. So, and you yourself are a veteran. How can jiu-jitsu benefit our veterans?
Well, I mean, I suffer from PTSD from the military, and I'm partially disabled from an artillery explosion. And so for me, the disability was some traumatic brain injury, but a lot of it was PTSD. And so it can help veterans, it can help first responders, it can help people that have been in traumatic situations to kind of recover from that situation. And a lot of veterans, the weird thing about veterans is when you're in the military, your closest friends, your military brothers and sisters are right there by your side through this ordeal.
Yeah.
The problem is when you get out, usually those people live far away from you. They don't all live in the same town. So suddenly you're found back in your hometown without any of these people that protected your butt for the last however many months or years. And so you feel very lost. And so it's very important for veterans, even if they don't have PTSD or any physical injury, to find a connection with other veterans. And combat sports is one of those things that's very analogous to war, I mean, in a way, or military. And so joining a combat sports academy can help veterans immeasurably because it puts them in proximity to other people that know what true struggle is about. And I think, especially if a vet has PTSD or some physical disability, that it's very important to them to train in combat sports, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, boxing, whatever that is, because a lot of times, we don't know what they're going through. And sometimes they may be right on the edge that day and they come in and train and they leave a lot of that anxiety and stress and worry on those mats and they go home feeling a little better.
Yeah.
So it's very important emotional therapy for vets, I believe.
Yeah, it kind of gives them, of course, I always mention the book Tribe, but that's exactly what it does. They're in a tribe and then they're not in a tribe. So jiu-jitsu or combat sports. I mean, veterans are like, man, I really like jiu-jitsu, but I think I'd rather do kickboxing. Like, go do kickboxing then.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Just do something because, as long as you're with a group that, you can feel like connected with and that you feel like these are your folks, then that's what's important.
Yep.
How did you come to jiu-jitsu? So what got you started? What was it that said, hey, I really do, I want to learn martial arts and then I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu. How did that happen?
Well, I'd been in combatives for a long time and I was out of it for a long time. I trained, I was lifting and everything. And then about 11 years ago, I suffered a personal loss and I had my kids, but I felt like I needed something else. And it just so happened that I was living in Lafayette, Indiana, and I noticed there was a Jiu-Jitsu academy. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go give it a try. And I walked in and tried it and never left really. But it was a lot of times what brings people to this is they're kind of on their knees, figuratively, trying to seek help from somewhere or someone or a higher power. And for me, it was just a tremendous personal loss that kind of left me needing something to kind of help me recover. I had my kids, but there were times in my life, and there's probably been times in a lot of people's lives when they just consider checking out. And,
Yeah.
you get to that point sometimes, and you need something. And for me, jiu-jitsu provided that.
Yeah. And I think that, we always hear that story, especially in jiu-jitsu, similar stories, not that particular story, obviously, but, people, I had a student recently, he had kind of a real major tragedy, and, he's just so busy right now, but he did about a year with us, and he's like, man, listen, I am so thankful. He told me about the situation, and he never even mentioned it, but he was like, if it wasn't for this year, I don't think I'd be alive.
Yep.
What he said. So he goes, I don't think I would have made it, so thank you so much. And I was just like, wow, I didn't know any of that,
Yeah.
So, and he's like, yeah, I'll get back on the mat as soon as I can. And I was just like, yeah, please, anytime,
Yeah.
So, but that's great. And what kind of transformations, you have your own students, and, you're very devoted to jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
what kind of changes have you seen in others through this art?
Well, first of all, with children, kids just go through this amazing transformation. I've seen kids that come in that are bullied. They have no self-confidence. They're shy. And through jiu-jitsu training, grappling training, they develop this better sense of self-confidence, and they don't get bullied as much. And then the people, I've seen bullies come in who, come get on the mats, and they get that bully beat out of them a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to see. I've seen people come in that, their marriage is going downhill, or their health is going downhill, and, they lose 30 or 40 pounds. They're able to get to work better. They feel better. They sleep better. Their relationships have gotten better. And so I've seen from kids on up, and also I've seen the ones that do compete. Competing is not for everyone, but the ones that do compete, it's really cool to watch kids, because you'll think kids aren't getting what you're teaching them, and then they go to a competition and they do exactly what you told them to do, and you go, wow, this really gets through to them. And when a kid or an adult competes or gets something right and is rewarded for it, it's amazing to watch how it impacts their life in a positive way.
Yeah. And you've been pretty successful competition wise yourself.
Yeah, I've competed probably 25 competitions over my 10-year career. Most of them were, I competed white, blue, purple belt, IBJJF, PANS, Worlds, Master Worlds, and Ego and Naga. Competition is not for everyone. I think as an academy owner, as a coach, it's important that you at least competed some.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions my students will ask me is, Coach, how do I prepare for this competition that's coming up? What should I look for? I've never done it before. And it's just like anything else in life. If you've never done it, it's hard to tell another person how to prepare for it or what to expect. So competition is important as a coach, I think. You don't have to be a world-class competitor, but I think if you've been on the mats and competed a little bit, it helps you, gives you credibility with your students.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like, I always tell my students is like, competition, I think it is good for you to compete, of course, but it's a great test. And, we just interviewed Hanato, and, Hanato's, multiple time world champion and stuff like that, Pan American champion. First time I met him, he just won Pan Americans at his weight and the absolute, right? So, and like Masters 1 or whatever it was at the time. And he's just like, he's just, he loves it. But of course, he agrees that it's a great tool, but it's not the end of it. You know what I mean? It's just a test, just like, you win the tournament, and win or lose, you look at what happened and go back to it. But yeah, I think it's important to have competed, So good. Well, Stephen, do you have anything as far as to end on a positive note here to tell people about just like anything,
Well, I think people are worried about COVID-19, about getting infected. I think it's it's to be taken seriously, but I don't think it's going to last. I think use common sense. We'll get through this. It's the media, social media, the government tends to maybe sensationalize it a bit. So you take everything what you hear with a grain of salt. You know, there are a lot of self-proclaimed experts out there, even people with degrees that are kind of I think unnecessarily creating more of a concern or worry than should be. Use common sense. We'll get through it. Get back to your life training. I mean, take things a day at a time. You know, when you're taught Hannah under stressful conditions, you're taught to just don't panic. You know, take it a day at a time, and we'll get through this.
Okay, that's very good. All right. I mean, I need my assistant to help me. I don't even know how to operate my computer. But Stephen, great talking to you. Thank you so much as always.
You're welcome.
And hopefully we'll see you soon. Okay.
Sounds good. See you, Jason.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Randy.